Let's move on to the next segment, that is panel discussion, enhancing driver monitoring systems, that is DMS, for safer roads in India. So for which we have total 7 speakers. So I'm requesting all the 7 speakers on stage. So first I would like to welcome Mr. Ajayan. So Mr. Ajayan is the director, EY-Parthenon. So let me brief about the speaker as well. Ajayan is a highly accomplished executive who has been enjoying with automotive C-suite for over a decade. Aneesh is a strategic and innovative thought leader focused on driving client impact and value with a varied experience across the automotive industry. Sir, we request you to join us on the stage. And next speaker we have Kaustubh Tilak, CTO, Starkenn. Mr. Kaustubh Tilak is currently working as a CTO at Starkenn Technologies Private Limited with over 25 years of experience in design and development of safety, critical and AI-driven ECUs in the area of ADAS, powertrain controls, both ICE and as well as EV. And the next we have Mr. Piyush Laddha, who is a Senior Manager, ADAS Systems, Automotive, Jaguar, Land Rover. So Mr. Piyush Laddha is the Senior Product Manager at Jaguar Land Rover, TBSI, an engineering executive with over 22 plus years of immense global experience in the software industry, driving innovation in automotive ADAS platforms. We request you also, sir. And next we have a speaker, Dr. Ramachandra, GM and Global Head, Autonomous Systems and Robotics, IES Wipro. Dr. Ramachandra is a multi-potentialite, highly accomplished, result-oriented technology and business leader with geek credentials spanning the 3 decades. Recognized expert in the industry with a wide variety of knowledge and skills in various areas of engineering research and innovation, product design, business strategy, and the arts. Started a career as a hardware engineer and switched to software. And one more speaker is going to join us, Mr. Gerald Hochmann. He is the Principal Global Business Development Manager, AVL. As a certified electrical engineer, Gerald Hochmann has started in AVL as technical expert in testing systems in the automotive industry. His professional journey led him to the Republic of Korea and China, where he was responsible in various functions. After receiving his master's degree in innovation leadership, he returned in 2018 to AVL Korea to lead the transformation as interim managing director. And the next speaker is Mr. Sandeep Agarwal. I'm requesting the speakers to occupy the seats on the dais. And let me introduce about the speaker, Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, who is the Assistant Director, Mobility, Strategy and Innovation, BOSCH. Mr. Sandeep Agarwal is the Assistant Director, Mobility, Strategy and Innovation at BOSCH India, with over a decade of experience in rail, road and air mobility, strategy, scales and technology leadership. He focused growth fields in ADAS, SDVs and hydrogen tech while shaping smart and greener mobility to collaboration. Previously, he led large and complex rail and metro projects at Siemens and Alstom, passionate about sustainability and digital transformation. And he focused on integrating emerging technologies for India's mobility and energy future. And the last speaker is Mr. Barman Kuntal Das. He is the expert research engineer, VOLVO Group. So Mr. Kuntal Das Barman has more than 20 years of experience spanning over aerospace and automotive domain. He has been with VOLVO for more than 10 years, working in ADAS and automotives and autonomous vehicles. He worked as an expert research engineer in safe and efficient driving vehicle technology. He was product owner of DMS in VOLVO Group. He holds PhD in computer science from NRIA Sofia Antipolis, France, after post-graduating from IASC Bangalore. All my dear speakers, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, or rather early good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for making it. Respected panelists, wonderful to finally meet in person. We've been conversing digitally, virtually over the last couple of days on how to make this an engaging panel for all of you. The topic of discussion today is an offshoot of a lot of discussions that's happened earlier in the day. I think a lot of discussion earlier in the day around safety and ADAS, and Giri in the earlier panel was talking about accidents and fatalities. The offshoot here and the topic of discussion today is the driver monitoring systems. And I truly believe that life comes a full circle because 13 years back, I was the victim of an accident where the truck driver slept off. And I was the typical college kid who was on the bike. 13 years and 7 surgeries later, I've still not managed to go back and play my favorite sport. So if any of you feel there's a vested interest in me trying to propagate DMS in India, it is true. Yes, I do have a vested interest. So on that note, maybe I can start with a question to any of the panelists who would like to pick it up. We have, at the moment in India, the government of India focusing on, from a regulatory perspective, on a lot of mandates around various active and passive safety regulations. We have the OEMs and the component suppliers and system integrators working strenuously on bringing in ADAS to the country. In this kind of scenario and ecosystem, what is the relevance of DMS in India? Or do we really have a relevance?
Um, uh, if you see the earlier discussion where Giri was also talking about the various different causes, and while he kind of touched upon the various different topics, such as like the classes of users are different, the type of vehicles are different, but one thing which was still common is the human element which is engaged, the human driver which is engaged in the driving function, and the behavior of a human element causing the accidents, right? I think rightly so, Anish, you mentioned your own personal experience where the truck driver slept off uh, an unfortunate incident happened, which you still don't even kind of forget after 13 years. So what typically this driver monitoring system addresses is the very issue of monitoring the driver behavior on an drowsy, distracted, or an non-alerted, sometimes say drunk driving situations, right? So I think those systems are very much relevant. Doesn't matter whether it's in a global context or an Indian context. And what I see is there are regulations such as AIS 184, 185 in India. Likewise, the Euro NCAP 24, 23, I think 23, 24. So now say suppose if you want to have say 5-star rating on your vehicle, there are regulatory body who are mandating you to have a driver monitoring system to monitor the driver behavior. So it is definitely a very, very important, critical feature when it comes to attentiveness and the alertness of a driver. So I believe definitely, irrespective of the geographical location, this is definitely one of the important ADAS feature. Um, that's how I would kind of spark up the discussion actually.
Anybody else has a take? Sandeep.
So just to add on basically what Giri has discussed, so he has mentioned about roughly 7 to 8% accidents happening from car, sorry 10 to 15, and then 7 to 8% accidents are also happening through the commercial vehicle. And if you put a human factor there, there is 20% or 25% accidents happening because our driver is falling asleep. So DMS is, I would not say it is a kind of system which we need to put it just from a regulation perspective, but it basically from a human safety factor, it has to be part of ADAS as an integral. We've been talking about since morning that what we need to do outside the car, but what we need to do inside the car is also very important. So I would say we have to take DMS along with all the ADAS features as a hand-to-hand, and DMS should not be seen as a kind of intuitive system. It is more like if I put an analogy that if you're watching a screen mobile screen for a very long time, it gives you an alert that you probably take a break. Same way, if your driver is falling asleep, getting fatigued, the same analogy is basically the DMS should give an alert. So that even though you are using L2, L3 or L4 level, still you have to take the control.
Okay, so just to add on what Piyush and Sandeep said, as the automation grows, the tendency of driver to mentally involve in the task of driving also increases. And this makes him more distracted and probably more drowsy. If you see the big highways like Samruddhi Highway, the accidents are happening because it's very monotonous driving. And in such kind of cases, the driver, has a tendency to get drowsy. So better infrastructure, better ADAS systems are actually causing more of the events of distraction and drowsiness. And that means driver is exactly not available then when he is required the most. And that is why I think DMS still makes sense even up to L3, probably L4 autonomy. Beyond that, once everything becomes fully autonomous, probably driver himself is a passenger. So till the time we have a driver or less of a driver, we still need DMS.
So if you look at the scenario in which driver is in the loop, basically in the driving as a driving element, driver monitoring systems are critical from the safety aspect that everyone knows about it. But how do we advance it? How do we make an advanced system in terms of knowing the conditions of the driver? So today what happens is people think that, you have better roads. We need better roads. That is what people claim. We want nice roads, smooth roads. But it is counterproductive for the driver, because as you drive on smooth roads, straight smooth roads, there's a tendency for the driver to doze off. So if there is traffic and if the roads are, is having some hump and bump or whatever potholes, it will actuate the vehicle itself to keep the driver alert. So in a way, you need to have a combination of, if you have smooth roads, driver will doze off. So how do we make the driver to be alert in spite of having smooth roads? So there is a system that needs to be developed. I think OEMs need to think in a broader aspect, as long as driver is required. As I told you, driver in the loop. You need to have not just monitoring system, you need to also have actuation systems. Actuation system in which the vehicle itself, or the driver seat for that matter, or the steering, should actuate, should vibrate or move or make sounds, whatever it is, to keep the driver alert. That aspect is, no one is talking about it. They think that, okay, you just give some beep or something or driver will get alert. No, it may not happen sometimes. So I have seen myself, I was driving in NH7, that is now, earlier it was called as NH7, that is from Hyderabad to Kanyakumari. There is a stretch between, I think, Kurnool to this place, just before and after Anantapur. This is an old capital city of Vijayanagar Kings. I don't got the name. It starts with P, I think, some name. That stretch doesn't have traffic. And the roads are straight and smooth. So generally, if you drive on that road, there's a tendency that you would feel asleep on a normal day. But especially in the nights, you will definitely. So what happened one day, I was driving around, it was around 1 a.m. I was alert. I thought I was alert. But suddenly, at some point of time, I don't know when my eyes got closed or I don't know what happened. I just went and bumped into the road separator. Luckily, the front right wheel went on top of that and came back on the road again. Otherwise, it would have toppled. I was driving, I think, around 100. So that is the dangerous situation. That is when I thought, actuation systems are most important, not just the monitoring system. That is one aspect. Second aspect, what happens is, especially in the truck drivers, you need to also monitor, especially for fleet management companies, you need to also monitor their off-job activities. So it is not just the monitoring of their face or their activities, what they're doing when they're inside the vehicle, but outside the vehicle, what they're doing. So if they're not slept properly and they come back on the, to drive, there is an aspect that, they may doze off, but anyway, you will detect it. But even before that, can you alert the systems to do some more extra surveillance on such people? So it is possible today. The reason, your mobile phone knows what activity you're doing, what you're talking, right? Whether you're eating, drinking, how. If you're not used your mobile phone for 5-6 hours, that means you are sleeping. Or you can have an app which monitors your sleep also, mandatorily. You can mandate some of those things. So in this way, you can get the metrics of the driver in terms of his activity, then what he does outside the vehicle, inside the vehicle, and where collecting the contextual information in terms of where he visited, whether he went to a bar or a proper, dhaba for eating. So that also matters a lot. And inside the vehicle also, you need to monitor the breath of the driver, whether he is drunk something or he just ate something. So not just the visual cues, even those cues all need to be put into the place. And the physiological. On the steering, you have the electrodes which will monitor your heartbeat, then many other things that you can parameterize in terms of the physiological parameters. Collect all the contextual information, and today, the sensors are so far. You can get the sensors so cheap and fast that you can actually capture the micro expressions also. So micro expressions are key for because many a times we hide our emotions also. So micro expressions are there in every human being, irrespective of which part of the world you are. That micro expression will give the emotion for a fraction of a second. And even if you try to hide, you cannot hide micro expressions. So get those micro expressions and then contextualize the other parameters that you have collected, and now create what you need to do. The cognitive loop will get completed at that time. You need to alert somebody on the road, alert the your fleet management system, or alert the driver himself, or alert other co-passengers or companions there. So from the technology aspect, these are the integration, because that is one of the questions that you asked about emerging technology, how you want to integrate. So if you're talking about advanced integration, I think these are the things that you need to integrate to make it a robust and I would say, very safe driver monitoring system.
I think a couple of very interesting, albeit contentious points. We'll come back to 2-3 of the threads that you referred to. Gerald and Kuntal, anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, maybe from the point of view on the legislative side, I think it was in one of the panel discussions before or presentations, it was mentioned that these accident statistics are very crucial to understand if from legal point of view something must be done or not. And especially in Germany, and I think also in my home country Austria, we have quite extensive accident databases which telling us that the monitoring of the driver is necessary, and that's also why the European Union decided to really implement these rules into the legislation from 2024, and I think the next stage will be middle of 2026. These functions are mandatory in the cars. So, for example, the distraction topic is something, as a car owner, still you're allowed to turn off. But the drowsiness, you're not allowed to turn off. So this will always be active in the car. And I think this is one of the interesting points. So from the legal perspective, will it be mandatory maybe also in India for all the vehicles, yes or no? And if it's mandatory, I think then for the car makers or for retrofitting side, it is just there. You don't need to talk about business case anymore. If the legal side decides it is necessary, you have to implement it in the systems.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to add a little bit from the commercial vehicle point of view. Yes, driver monitoring system is primarily used to monitor the driver's distraction and drowsiness. But then it is also used to monitor the seat belt detection and the driver work hours, the driver identification, because often the driver and the owner of the vehicle is not the same in case of commercial vehicle. And then I would also like to add to Dr. Rama's certain points, the actuation part. In fact, being from the Volvo group, I can add that we are actually working on the actuation part, what we call that as assisted stop. Essentially, what will happen that, yes, first we alert the driver that he is falling asleep, but then what next? Because he may not even take an action. So in such a case, why don't we stop the vehicle in a safe way to a safer place? So that's something that we are already working on. So rest of the points, I think mostly it is added already or already discussed.
Wonderful. Well, I had a very different trajectory that I had planned to take this on. I cannot not ignore one of the points that Dr. Rama that you mentioned. And I think maybe I'll start off by addressing this question to Kaustubh, you, because you do a lot of implementation of DMS in India. Very short, if you can tell me what the current rate of adoption of DMS in India is, and then over to the main question. How much do you think the drivers are okay being monitored? Because a lot of the things that Dr. Rama mentioned are extremely critical to safety. But do you think the end user of the DMS system, which in our case is driver, and as Kuntal mentioned in India, I think more than 92% of commercial vehicle use cases are not driver come owners. There's a fleet operator and there's a separate driver community in India. So do you think they will be okay with this? Because the fleet operators would love to have the system to the level of integration that Dr. Rama mentioned.
Yeah, so to answer your question, penetration of DMS in Indian market is very low. The reason is when I speak to drivers, they always say that you first remove that word monitoring because we don't like the word monitoring. What are you monitoring? You can just say driver assistance or something like that. Secondly, see, as far as the adaptation in the heavy commercial vehicles or light commercial vehicles, in the mining section, it is mandatory. So DGMS guidelines mandate that driver drowsiness and distraction system has to be there. So there it is in place by force now. As far as the owner-owned vehicle and driver-driven vehicles, it is again by force. Drivers don't like it, but they will have to accept the fact that it exists, otherwise they will lose the job. But I have seen a lot of resistance to this kind of systems for owner-owned, owner-driven vehicle. They say that we don't need it, okay, because we don't want our faces to be captured, our in-cabin information to be captured and stored somewhere. So most of the resistance is actually coming from owner-owned, owner-driven vehicles. For the others, either it is mandatory by law or it's mandatory by the owner of the transportation company or the logistics company, leaving no choice for the drivers, but acceptance from the drivers is very poor anyway.
That's an interesting take, actually. And while we will come to the software and the AI element of DMS, I'd like to start off with what was the buzzword in Indian automotive 2 years back, which is Atmanirbhar and Make in India and localization. So question is to you, Kuntal, Piyush, Sandeep. What is the level of hardware localization that we have when it comes to DMS related elements? Are we there? Are we ready? Or do you think it's an evolution like many other electronic products?
So your question is around the localization topic, right?
The localization of the hardware elements of what's required in the DMS.
I come from a software background, right? So on the hardware thing, it will be difficult, but let me share my view on typically the adaptation of how the new feature adaptation happens actually. So in my view, any new feature adaptation happens on 4-5 different dimensions. So initially, the new feature is kind of sold as a product differentiation, right? Where we say that it's a new product. This novelty angle kicks in, it brings in awareness to it actually. When more and more people are aware, then it sparks the demand. And then when the demand start getting generated, then the technology and other things start making it more accessible, feasible, affordable, right? I mean, so that it is available for a mass market per se. And then somewhere in between comes the regulatory thing which start mandating such features actually. So what I see from an DMS point of view is we are, especially from an vehicle manufacturer, for a passenger vehicle manufacturer point of view, we are at the early stage when it comes to India, where in the product differentiation phase, right? It's primarily kind of getting deployed in the luxury or the premium segments. While the luxury premium segment it is getting deployed, what I see is there is a growing awareness around the community of a driver for the as well as there is a concern on the road safety in general, right? Like so, the awareness is increasing. More and more adaptation I see is coming in for DMS in time to come. Whereas then there is a regulatory angle which is also kicking in for especially for the commercial vehicle. We say AIS 185, right, which is kind of mandating 184, sorry, which start mandating a driver monitoring system. At least it's in draft stage. In next couple of years, it will start mandating the driver monitoring system in commercial vehicle. So I would say we are at the cups at this moment where it is more getting sold or implemented as a product differentiation feature, like premium luxury segments have the feature, whereas but over a period of time, this will become like we as a OEM at Jaguar Land Rover, we are working on bringing this as an integrated feature for our next generation of an ADAS system, wherein in-cabin monitor. We in fact we are not just looking at the driver monitoring. We are looking at in-cabin monitoring system where not just the we call this as a OMS, which is an occupant monitoring system, where the driver monitoring system, the passenger monitoring system, child presence detection. So because the regulations are moving in this direction where the expectations are the even child presence should be detected in a car, right? So what I see is like we are on a road where at this moment we are in the early phase of a product differentiation, especially in India. Whereas when you look at Europe and US, the regulations have already started kicking in, mandating such features. So, and India continues to follow the suit so far. That's what we have been hearing since morning, right? So, that's what I would talk about the software per se. I'll just hand it over to Sandeep on the hardware side.
So, from a localization per se, if we have to see the two angles, one is when you are basically the application of DMS is on the commercial vehicle, which is mostly for the park size and mostly aftermarket fitment. So there the localization is that the cameras are now also getting manufactured. The some part is still we are outsourcing it. Be it the software module, be it the algorithm, those are more or less in-house developed. So the level of local content is very high per se. When it comes to the OE side, now you are basically not making a separate compute for DMS. You are trying to bundle that computational part into one of your box in car. There the localization would be again based on the OE strategies, what kind of level of localization they want to achieve. But the cameras and the other accessories can be easily, I would say, they are already very high depth of localization. Now I will basically pick the another part is, as he has mentioned, Piyush has mentioned about the commercial vehicle as well as on the occupant monitoring. So when we target commercial vehicle, and I come from the strategy side, so we need to know which segment we need to target. So on a commercial vehicle, there are basically 3 or 4 actors. So it started from the enterprise or the shipper level. Then we have a 3PLs who manage the transportation, then the 2PLs, then the goods movement, and then all the service providers, be it SaaS-based, be it the fleet management solution or a DMS management solution. And then the drivers are coming. And ultimately we need to bring that flavor that it is not monitoring, it's a behavioral change topic which we are talking about. And there should be some gamification has to be placed, which means that if the driver is driving well, there is very less nudges or anomalies are coming, you should have a mechanism to award or reward the driver. It's kind of, civil scorecard of a driver or a resume for a driver. If I am having maybe a rating of, 5-star, I should be paid maybe few bucks more. And this approach we need to really target. Otherwise, we will keep making the pocket solution and selling to the different, I would say, segment where maybe regulation is driving it, where maybe some shipper or customer is driving it. But the bottom layer, which is driver, I think somewhere we need to also focus that.
Wonderful. Yeah. On that note, Kuntal,
maybe I would like to add a little more on your the initial question about the localization, about the hardware part. You see, from Volvo, this is the year where we will roll out the DMS in the commercial trucks. The challenge that we always faced is the placement of the sensor. Like, unlike the car, placement of driver monitoring camera in a truck or a bus is very challenging because you don't, the camera doesn't see the face straight. And therefore, most of your algorithms have to be looked at. Then comes the question of the form factor. Now, these two, along with the quality requirement, let's say the IP6 kind of quality requirement, these are very challenging. And even, because of the placement and IP6, it requires a certain levels of lens or the sensor, production kind of assembly line, okay? Those, it's not that we are not looking, inside India, but right now we do not have that as of now. So we are going with an European solution, but going forward we are open. If such an alternate solution is there, we would love to see that. That's how I would like to point.
So just to answer the question that you brought up about the positioning of the sensor in trucks are challenging because there's a huge glass in the windshield in the front. And driver, you need to place the camera on the sides, the driver, so you will not get the front vision of the driver. So this is one of the classical problems that we also faced while building driver monitoring system for large vehicles. So one of the solutions that we tried to implement is, of course, this is slightly expensive affair. It's not. We did what is called as using AI synthesis of the face. So the post synthesis was done using 2 cameras. Take the stereoscopic image of the cameras. We have the trained data set. That data set will give the front facial by just getting the side facials of the feeds of from the cameras. So how did we do this? We placed the 3 or 4 cameras in front of the vehicle and collected the data and trained the system. So next time when a driver sits in the vehicle, the feed is taken from only one camera. From this data set, we are able to regenerate the pose, which is from the front. Though camera is not placed there, you can get the pose estimation from the new synthesized pose from as though the camera is placed in the front. So, but it is slightly expensive. We need computation for this to do. Okay, coming back to that question of adaptation of the, one of the biggest challenges for any OEM, whether it is foreign OEM or Indian OEM, to release any high-tech product or future-looking product in India is cost. That is the biggest problem in India. People in India want to have high-tech gadgets, no doubt. We also did a survey some years ago, I think some 5-6 years ago, along with IAC, to find out whether people are ready to use AV, autonomous vehicles, if they are given one to them. So we did a survey in Pune, Bangalore, and many other places, different age groups. We found that, to our shock, that, old people and young generation, they want, autonomous vehicles to be there. They don't want to depend on, old people, they have to depend on youngsters, and young people, they have to depend on elders to drive them to places. So they said, we are ready, we will take the autonomous vehicle. Then came the people in the middle so within that we had male and female. So mostly the females are ready to adapt the, they want the autonomous vehicles. Males, they said, okay, they also want, but not that percentage of acceptance like the other people. So if you look at this data, it is interesting data. People want it, they want, yes. When we said, okay, this comes with an additional cost, almost all of them said no. So people are, in India, it's price sensitive. They're very sensitive to, you add any delta to the cost of the car, they just say, no, I don't want it. So this is the biggest challenge for putting anything other than government mandating it, or like through regulation that you need to put this level of automation in the vehicle. People are not going to take it if you give it. If you give them the system fully functional but with extra cost. So for that, if any OEM has to bring in any system to India, the price point has to be, like they cannot have something, okay, give me a subscription fee, cloud fee of this much. No, it will not go in India like that. So what they need is, okay, they're willing to pay a little extra when they buy the car. It is just like buying a house, and then you do the interiors along with the house while you're buying the house, because you get loan for that. Similarly, when you take a new vehicle, that delta X that is going to come, that anyway you get the loan for that, they'll take that. But the moment you say subscription, that you have to pay every month extra, they're not going to take it. So if that is the case, an Indian model is going to be something like this. You need an edge computing device in the vehicle to do the ADAS functions, or whatever, driver monitoring, whatever it is, without any fee collected from you month on month for any cloud subscriptions.
So you'll have to build in the fee for that upfront.
Upfront.
And that will be a significant differential, right?
No, that also need to be small. It cannot be too big. That's why I told edge. It cannot be, put a supercomputer in the cloud and put a, maybe some embedded system here. That will not going to work. You need to put a edge compute device, slightly reasonably good compute power, but it has to be in the edge. And then biggest problem in India is the use case. Whatever you do, Indian use case is the most complex use case in the world. People don't follow any traffic rules. Because I've been doing, last 10 years, I've been developing autonomous vehicle for Indian roads. I know what is the kind of problems that if we have collected largest data set in the world for Indian roads. No one has collected such big data set along with IISc, Indian Institute of Science. So the complex thing is, one is the behavior of the people on the roads and the driving behavior of the people on the roads, and the infrastructure itself.
They are very much aware of the fact that somebody is looking at them, so they will never like to upload anything. So they would love to have it locally uninitiated on the edge, and then maybe stored. What they would like to have is a data of the dash cam which is being stored, so that they can produce it as evidence that it was not their problem. But they will certainly not like to have their own faces being captured, because if it turns out to be the case that the accident has happened because driver was distracted or drowsy. And this recently happened with one of the Starkenn installation where driver was distracted, he was continuously alerted, he did not take the action and eventually went and hit the vehicle in front. Both recordings were captured, and our SD card was taken by police for investigation, and there the driver was found to be guilty. So drivers won't like this, because, but the owners, of course, they will like, because they will obviously suspend the driver. So acceptance from the drivers won't be there. Data security, data sharing will also have to be handled very carefully by OEMs and the tier ones. So whoever owns the data and whoever handles the data, he has to be very careful. Because data captured on the road is also very sensitive. So number plates are to be obscured, and then faces are to be, made blur. All these things are required.
Great. Sandeep, something that we touched upon 2 days back is with regards to the alert system in DMS. And I was sharing my personal experience with you. A couple of years back, I was helping a client set up DMS for their vehicles, and the drivers literally, rallied behind not having it, calling it to be a disturbance, an absolute disturbance. what's the solution for this, especially considering that we might go through a mandate of DMS in commercial vehicles?
When it comes to the warning, we need to put the different level of warnings. So one way is basically that you can use the audio cues or very small beeps. Then second way is that you should have some kind of an indication system on the dashboard so that you will not hear it continuously. And then also with the help of AI, you can also do the personalized messaging. Depending on the severities, depending on the how many times the driver is basically getting caught either through the distraction way or through the fatigue or through the drowsiness. Based on that, you can also change the tone so that the personalized message will give them a sense of more confidence on the system that it is basically working towards their well-being. And ultimately, if you close that loop and on the, I would say, server side or the transport manager side or at the owner side, they would not need this continuous monitoring. They need, when the case or the incident is happening, only that snippet or maybe a 10-second video should come so that you will reduce the cost, which basically solve that one point. And second is that you have to really work on what kind of nudging mechanism you have to do. It cannot be plain static. It has to be dynamic, and based on the situation, it has to be adopted. And I think technology is ready for do that.
Also, one point I want to add is DMS is a very critical target for cyber security. Because if cyber criminals get control of the DMS, they can actually use the feed to record who all are with you, all your activities, and then they can hold you at ransom saying that this is where you were, these are the people, shall I call your family or shall I call your father and show him these videos. So DMS without cyber security is like you are keeping the doors open for everybody to come in and record you freely at all point in time. So it has to be there.
Kuntal, you were mentioning that you're due to launch next year.
This year.
This year. How have you addressed all of these concerns that's been raised now?
Primarily, when I look at what Sandeep said about the beep, we break it into two. One part is on the false positive and the false negative side. Can we reduce it? What is our KPI? Okay, so that's part. So we really focus on that part. The second part is the human interaction part. So we try to be very, there's a big study that goes on inside Volvo that how we present it to the customer. So that's how we try to, reduce it. We take customer's opinion as well. And not only that, at the end, for every truck, for any feature, we collect data in the back end. And data in the sense like any truck that rolls out, we have mechanism to collect that data. We analyze that data and we see how the driver is using it. So initially, we will do all these analysis and we try to figure out that how the driver is, using it. Not only direct, sometimes drivers also give that feedback. So we try to solve it that way. Okay.
Wonderful. I've just gotten monitored and nudged that we're running out of time. So I'd like to maybe open the floor for some questions from the audience. Yeah, I could see two hands raised over there.
Hello, everyone. So myself, I'm Sirfi, and I work as a product manager for Fleet Safety and Bridgestone Mobility Solutions. So the question I have is, in developed market, with respect to DMS events, so there is a mode called as privacy mode, wherein which you don't capture the driver-facing video, but still you trigger the DMS events for the drivers. Do we see that to be a trend coming in India? Because we have concerns of privacy and the drivers would not be receptive enough to capture the driver-facing videos. So do we see that privacy mode to be an early trend in our market?
Yeah, whatever the global standards that are going to be, going to come or coming in the near future, I think Indian standard is also going to adapt over and above those standards. And especially related to privacy, I think there are already systems where even before this mandates came, people are concerned about the privacy of individuals. So the images are blurred, whether it is the driver image or the co-passenger images, inside the vehicle. It's blurred and then only it is processed. Means given out for any this thing. Unless otherwise there is, of course, it will still have the original data, but it will be stored in a very secured environment, not available to public use.
So, as a follow-up, I have a question on this one. So my point is still the driver-facing video not being uploaded to the cloud. On the edge, you capture the driver-facing video, and you just notify on the event part, but you don't store the video anywhere, either on the SD card or on the cloud. You don't upload to it. You just trigger the event for DMS. That's it on that part. Whereas there's no blurring effect part to it as well.
Yeah, blurring effect will come only when it is required as per the regulation to the data to be stored or sent to the cloud. If that is not there, going to be you are not signed for that, then the data need not be captured. So many a times what happens is people do capture the dashboard data in terms of both external and internal. During that time, the data is stored. So today you are seeing dashboard camera separate and DMS camera separate. In future it's going to be merged. Both are going to be same. It will be one single system which monitors the external environment of the vehicle as well as the internal environment of the vehicle. And each of these feeds are going to be get as a contextual information for the ADAS, whichever level it is, or the AV software to monitor. So selectively, especially, for example, one of the mandatory requirements is like an underage person sitting in the driver's seat and trying to switch on the ignition, start the vehicle. So that occupancy detection will detect the age of the person sitting in the vehicle, and then mandate whether if it is an underage, then it will not, the ignition will not start. So those are the regulations that are going to come in the near future. So as I said, these systems once get integrated, there will be a regulation which will mandate to store the data, because in the event of accidents, you need to have the data to be available. So when it is stored, the images people inside the vehicle are going to be blurred. Means selectively, if for investigation by forensic reasons, it can be de-blurred. Means you will get the original feed also. So that will be available through standard streams that are going to be made available inside the system to put it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, but maybe I can add a few more points to that. I mean, again, giving from Volvo's perspective. When it comes to the DMS, we don't store any of the driver's image inside the vehicle. So going forward, if we ever store, then the question comes, as per GDPR, when we transfer the data, should it be blurred? Yes, it will be. And then another part is that, I think, sorry, I forgot the last point. But I can assure on this part that at nowhere we store any of these images either from the forward-looking camera or these cameras in the vehicle. We don't do that.
Yeah, hello, all members of the panel. It was a very good discussion. I got to learn a lot of things. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Rakesh Shroff. I've been in ADAS from last 14 years, working for various clients and through a service-based MNC. So I think a lot of light coming, that's it. Okay. So now what I understood was when we say DMS, we are talking mostly from a camera perspective. But what I learned from the panel today that the camera is one of the aspects. We can do tens and hundreds of different ways of monitoring various parameters of the driver. So that itself is different levels. Okay, some may be non-intrusive like the camera, where security, safety, and other issues come in. So just wanted to know that should we go and level all these features one by one? And the second aspect I want to understand is, in many different countries, the insurance amount is linked with what safety features you have. And is there anything happening in India from the insurance perspective, where the insurance amount is reduced because you have a DMS system active. So the first part is the levels of DMS, whether there is an active study going on in how much level it should be. Like in autonomous, we have levels, 0 to 5. And the insurance amount, whether the insurance companies are taking cognizance to all this, whether DMS, if it's present, then we will reduce this thing. Just wanted the comments from the panel, experience panel. Yeah.
I will go ahead. Again, maybe the second part I will answer first. On the insurance side, at least we are not aware. Yes, there are, I should not say insurance. On the warranty claim, we would love to, okay? But from OEM perspective. When it comes to the incident-related issue, I think some discussion was happening sometime before in the previous panel as well. We are bringing in something called event data recorder in the vehicle, like the flight data recorder, what we call as black box in case of aircraft. We will have event data recorder. In such case, we may have some images, but that is not even finalized. As per the regulation, there are certain guidelines given that what should be stored. Okay, but it is still, we are developing it. It will come soon. That much I can say. But it will be primarily from the OEM perspective. It will be on the warranty side. Coming to your first question, what are the different levels of DMS? Truly speaking, DMS from the camera perspective is only something that maybe in last few years we have done. Before that also we had certain things called driver alert system. What we initially did, it was again based on camera, but not looking at the driver. It was looking at the outside where we have lane marking. We what we measured was the lane discipline and the drift correction. So if the driver is correcting too much on the drift, we said, okay, driver was probably not following, he was not alert. The other aspects that many organizations or many, startups or, new ideas is based on driver health parameters. Some wearables, it could as well be in the in the steering wheel. Many possibilities exist. But then there are discussions that how intrusive we can be, because we also need to ensure that we are not capturing someone's personal data in the vehicle, okay? Because it's not right. So how much, so that is not really clear. So it's not that we are not following, the research that is going on, but something in that direction, no clear development is happening because we are not certain that how government would mandate it. We look at that aspect, we build some prototype, but it remains on that. So we also have to be aligned with what government is allowing, and our products will go worldwide. So we have to align with all government's regulations. So that also we have to keep in mind. Thank you.
So just to
Thank
add, one of the questions, I don't know, you asked about the recording part. Did he ask about some recording also?
No.
So one of the proposals that we propose to our OEM is there has been a requirement that you, for privacy's sake, you don't capture the data and store it in the cloud. So one option is blurring, of course. The other option that we propose to them is since we, of course, subject to computation requirements, we said make it anonymous. Means we capture the micro expressions of the driver, just the attributes of that micro expressions, replace the image or the face of the driver with an AI image. Put those attributes into that image expression and the driver image expression, everything is going to be same. Except that it is not driver's face, it's somebody else's face. Male is driving the vehicle, but it could be, the image could be a female. But the expressions, the emotions, everything is going to be the same as that of a male driver, that is the female face. That is AI synthesized image. This is one of the thing. We also filed a patent recently for that because this privacy requirement is becoming a frequently asked questions. Any conversation you go with any OEM or any tier 1 supplier, this is one of the top questions. So that is the reason we said, yeah, we can build this, because as we see that the compute cost is reducing, this is by the time it comes to market, it will take another easily 5 to 10 years, all the system to come in place. By then, the compute and things will be so cheap that you can do it on the edge itself, all these things on the edge.
I think in the interest of time, we can continue to have this discussion. I think it'll enthrall all of us. With the interest of time and taking into account the changing emotions of the organizers, I think let's call it an evening. Over to you, dude.
Thank you, speakers. Thank you.